G'day Australia, welcome to our town, and Port Lincoln is our location this month. Adelaide is about 800 k's that way, Perth about 2,000 kilometres that way, Antarctica is the next landmass from here. This is a capital of tuna, of tourism and of great times. There's a lot of ways to have fun in this part of Australia, and you'll see them all tonight on Sky News.
Live from Port Lincoln, this is Paul Murray Live, our town.
G'day Australia and welcome to Port Lincoln in South Australia. We've got plenty of our mates here at the Marina Hotel and we are in for a spectacular night. Now I won't lie, the weather not quite what we were planning as the final show for the year here in December. It is absolutely pelting down. In fact, we had a look at the radar before. The only place where it's raining in Australia right now is Port Lincoln. So I know that there's cyclones up in Queensland. It's been very hot in Sydney and Victoria. But all the best to everyone wherever you happen to be watching. But we are very excited to be on the road as always. Now, that's only possible because of our dear friends at Harvey Norman. I appreciate all the support that they give us, and we'll celebrate this great region in a moment or two's time. But first, how's this for a job? Now, as we know, other people's money is something that those at state, federal and local government love to spend. Why? Because it's yours, it's not theirs, but they treat it, frankly, like confetti. Now, when you think about people who work for local councils, there's a reason I'm starting with this, by the way, tonight. The local council, you think about, well, obviously, the people that are fixing the roads, or you think about the people who might be sort of picking up the rubbish here or there. Well, or maybe running the library. Well, we learned today that Yarra Council, one of the wokest councils in Australia, one that's all anti-Australia Day and all the rest of it, they have now decided to make someone's job the flag marshal. They literally fly so many different flags out the front of Yarra Council that it is now someone's responsibility to be able to decide which flag flies on which day on which flagpole. Now, for obvious reasons, the flags that aren't there all the time, but are there as often as the council wants them to be, being the Australian, the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander flags. Oh, no. But things get a little bit different. You see, this is Yarra Council. This is a place to be woke. Well, they also fly, among other flags, ones that are a little cooler for the local area, like the aromantic flag, the asexual flag, the bisexual flag, the intersex flag, the intersex inclusive pride flag. They fly the lesbian pride flag, the non-binary pride flag, the pansexual pride flag and the transgender flag. No wonder this ends up being someone's full-time job. Meantime, they fly international flags, like minor Arab Democratic Republics, the Morning Star for West Papua, the Vietnamese yellow flag, because, you know, communism, man. The Morning Star flag that they have as well as the United Nations flag. But we're still not finished. How does this become a full-time job? Because they also fly the Eureka flag, the flag for the international campaign against nuclear weapons. And then, even if it's not enough after they've covered off all the countries, all the sexualities, they also fly the Brisbane Lions, the Collingwood Magpies and the Richmond Tigers footy club flags. Other people's money. A job now at Yarra Council full-time is not to pick up the rubbish, but is to work out which flag goes where. Because it's 2023 and people are crazy. Speaking of wonderful public officials, I've got to say, today's a very emotional day for those of us on this program who have been very passionate supporters of the Queensland Premier. Anastasia Palaszczuk, of course, the greatest of all of the COVID leaders, has now sadly decided to rob us of her greatness. Today, of course, she announced in Brisbane that she was abdicating from the throne of Queen Palaszczuk. She is now, of course, looking into a new life. And look, Queensland will be all the poorer. But here she was today, stepping down. The greatest Premier in Queensland history, just ask her.
I don't believe anyone who comes after me will know how humbling it is. To travel this state and meet so many amazing people.
That's tragedy. Now, does that look like somebody who resigned or somebody who worked out that she was probably going to get the punt because enough members knew that she was an electoral liability? She, of course, will run off in the sunset on Friday. She goes, of course, with a near lifetime pension. And, of course, no doubt there will be a job for her in the future, like, I don't know, running the Olympics in Brisbane in 2032. Watch this space. But I'm sorry. There are many reasons why I have always been critical of this Premier. This Premier has been overtly political and, in my view, at times, particularly heartless. Remember a couple of years ago at the height of keeping everyone safe with COVID? Despite the fact that there were no real problems in Coolangatta or Tweed Heads. Father's Day, Australians had to meet each other outside, fathers and sons of all different ages, wearing masks and hugging across a barrier. That was how stupid Australia got, of course, back in the years of 2021 and 2020. She, of course, was re-elected as a result of this sort of madness, but many of the people who were grossly affected by it in many ways will never forgive her. And they have every right to not forgive her. There is no acceptable circumstance under which the free movement of Australian people in their own country is acceptable, let alone the disgraceful decisions when people, of course, ended up having to die alone, family members not able to be by their bedside or not even being able to see them once they had eventually passed. Now, in many ways, the reason why Daniel Andrews was able to pull the pin when he did and now Anastasia Palaszczuk was because Labor's in power and the inquiry into COVID will not look into their actions. Instead, it'll be another blame ScoMo, blame Dutton affair. But of all of the grabs that, of course, are incredibly powerful, memorable of this useless Premier, was the comments that she made that are very famous around COVID. But the context is what makes me angry to this day.
In Queensland, we have Queensland hospitals for our people.
What was she talking about? She was talking about the scenario of a woman in northern New South Wales who didn't live close enough to a hospital to be able to have her twin babies taken care of. So she wanted to go to a Queensland hospital. She was unable to get to the Queensland hospital because of all of the border rules. So then she had to travel down to the nearest hospital closer to Sydney. She lost one of those two babies. Now, I don't know that lady's political philosophy, but it is outrageous that that sort of domestic politics that was all about scaring as many people as they possibly could in the local areas ended up getting turned around for political advantage in subsequent state elections. And then, of course, there's the Premier who, again, was the one who said she was there to keep you safe. The reality of what was happening, of course, is that the hospital system that she has been overlooking, that she has been in charge of, has been a scenario where ambulance ramping is getting worse and worse. It is becoming a significant problem, and in fact, as late as last month, more people were spending time in the back of an ambulance because there weren't enough spots in hospitals. And that is a reason why she doesn't, in my book, go down as a legend. Then, of course, there is what has happened with youth crime. It has got worse every single year that she has been in charge of Queensland. We've done programs from Toowoomba, from Mackay, from Townsville, from Cairns, and this is the issue that all day, every day people talk about. Yet, of course, her solution to all of this was to decriminalise drug possession because it was 10% of all of the youth offending that takes place in Queensland. Therefore, guess what magically will drop by 10%? Youth crime going into the state election. Then, of course, was her control of the media. Now, this was an echo of the Andrews government, but it was perfected under Queensland Labor under Anastasia Palaszczuk, which was many of the people who previously had covered her premiership as reporters. Well, they got offered jobs straight after elections. Geez, I wonder if there was a chat being had during the elections where they ended up making far more money working for the Premier as a spin doctor. More than 30 people work in and around the image, not the information, of the now gone, or soon to go, Queensland Premier. Now, you will find plenty of other people in the media who will take their moment to say that this is some sort of a political legend. You can't deny that she is the most successful female politician of all time in Australia, not just becoming the leader of her party and her state, but being re-elected and re-elected multiple times. There's no question about that. But you can read the praise of her as a Labor legend. I'll focus on the reality of what her leadership was. Meantime, there are people who suggest that she somehow is the magical key for Anthony Albanese to unlock issues in Queensland. Well, I would think the fact that she's going because she's now an electoral liability means she's not going to be able to help anyone, but most likely herself, which is, of course, what she has always done. Some of the people who wrote to the Courier Mail's website today to share their absolute heartbreak at this leader disappearing from the political scene. Just came back from a holiday in Brisbane. Sense a real mood for change. People are fed up with youth crime, cost of living in the state of the Queensland roads. The ALP have been on the nose up there. Another one. No, I wanted to see her lose. More humiliating. I wanted to see a concession speech. That would have been a better result. The only people who voted for her were her electors in Yarra, and the very least that she could say, stay for them is for the rest of the term. Instead, she's decided to jump. This is a great day and a very sad day. Happy to see her go, but also sad because her replacement will be worse. Which brings us to the only person who at this stage has actually put his hand up to say that he will be the next leader of the Labor Party and that's Premier of Queensland, Stephen Miles, her deputy. He was endorsed by the current Premier, but this is a bloke who is all politics. Now, when he was, at one point in time, the Health Minister in Queensland, he was constantly introduced during COVID as Dr. Stephen Miles, suggesting that somehow he had some sort of medical background and therefore could help us through COVID. The reality is no, he's a doctor in politics. He wrote his thesis about the union movement in Queensland. He's a man who is perfect central casting man from Central Labor Party playbooks, but the reality is that I think his version of politics will be even more unpopular than Palaszczuk's. Why? Because we've seen him as Palaszczuk's attack dog.
No doubt the Prime Minister will continue to try to use the vaccine rollout and COVID more generally to distract from the government's other problems.
Queensland's legal community has hit back at the Deputy Premier. Stephen Miles yesterday claimed the release of 13 children from a watch house was a media stunt.
His tweet in response to Donald Trump testing positive says, "Have you considered intravenous disinfectant?"
The idiot Stephen Miles did this to the very written, signed agreement that his own government made to pay the hotel quarantine costs.
Queensland Deputy Premier Stephen Miles, who has accused Amanda Stoker of being a right-wing, crazy, woman-hating lunatic.
Good to see me, buddy Blousey in there. Love you, Catty B. Now, of course, the other person who may well end up as Premier is also somebody from the left, which is Shannon Fentiman. Now, Shannon Fentiman is the former Attorney General and now the Health Minister. And she too comes from the same cloth of decision-making that has been politically successful to this point. But you've got to ask something about some of the morality around all of this. Remember, as late as last month, we were telling you about a woman who died because this Health Minister, her ambulance service, well, it ended up not picking her up within the time that she expected. She went to bed, she woke up dead. And of course, there was another example just a week earlier of a grandfather who was waiting for an ambulance but ended up dying in the back of it, and his family wasn't even told that that was the place. And then the situation when it comes to ambulances in regional Queensland, well, that's now so bad that there's only one paramedic per ambulance, and if you need the help in the back of the ambulance, a member of the public will need to drive the ambulance to the nearest hospital. So forgive me if I don't shed the same political tears or just pretend that it's all about how many elections you win. It's about the wreckage that you leave behind. It's about something that should keep you up at night. And while the warm embrace of the media, the Labor legendary status, and many of the political figures will say there was something special about this person, I think there was something quite the opposite. Very successful at what she did politically, but there was something very weird about the morality that was being played. I'll never forget that lady who ended up losing her babies. Never, ever. Meantime, remember when the current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, made this promise about why he was going to be different than the Prime Minister in Scott Morrison that he replaced.
During this campaign, I've been positive. I've been who I am. I don't pretend to be perfect. What I do though is accept responsibility, and I step up and I won't go missing.
Well, of course, we know what sends him particularly crazy is the nickname that sticks because it matters. Why? That's the one, of course, of Airbus Albo when he flies around with Toto. And I'll talk about this in greater detail tomorrow, but Samantha Maiden was able to do some reporting over the weekend. Guess whose dog has been flying on the plane you pay for? That's right, Toto. We'll get to that in Airbus Albo in a moment. But we also learned today by the Australian newspaper, the Prime Minister who was definitely going to show up, who was so much better than everyone else, he's given more press conferences overseas since the defeat of The Voice than he has in this country. The latest changes that are expected this week for them to try to save their political backside is to change immigration policy, which ironically means he has to turn to one of his three useless amigos, that of course being Claire O'Neill, who has, of course, along with the other two useless amigos, been in charge of one of the great problems of this government, which has been their response to the High Court decision. So if the solution to the problem is more Claire O'Neill, you're still going to have one hell of a problem, Albo. All right, let's get to the good stuff here. That is beautiful Port Lincoln. This is an incredible part of Australia. Where we're standing right now, Adelaide 650 k's away, Broken Hill 754 k's away, Melbourne 1,300 k's away from where we are right now. Sydney, the best part of 1,800 away from where we are right now. It's the seafood capital of Australia. Prawns, tuna, mussels, lobster boats, all of these are actually in this very marina. And very early in the morning, plenty of people head out, and that is one of the main industries in this part of the world. It's also 50% of South Australia's agriculture. And just flying into this area, the huge agricultural properties are incredible to see. About 14,000 people live here, and every one of them seems to be awesome, and many of them seem to watch the show. Been very kind to us once we've been here. And there's plenty to talk about the seafood trade here with our local reporter, Monica, who's based in Adelaide, who decided to spend some time up here.
Nestled amongst the Eyre Peninsula coastline is Port Lincoln, the seafood capital of Australia. With a history so intertwined with the maritime industry, locals claim salt water runs through their veins. Oysters, prawns and kingfish are just some of the region's delicacies, but by far the most famous export is bluefin tuna.
When I first came here, Port Lincoln was a little hick town, a couple of pubs, or 3 pubs or something like that, and there was nothing here. And then we found the tuna, and it became slowly bigger and bigger and bigger. And one stage we had close to 25,000 tonnes.
Port Lincoln fisheries produce 95% of Australia's tuna, pulling in 9,000 tonnes annually with an estimated value of $300 million.
People became nervous that it might be depleting the tuna resources. And then we came up with the idea to go tuna farming. And that was the big breakthrough. We anchored the big cages, and then we feed them. Sometimes 50 tonnes a day.
Once caught, the tuna is snap frozen and then shipped across the globe. It's produce served by the top sashimi restaurants of Japan.
The Japanese really love their tuna and sashimi. They're paying big prices for it.
Tuna may be the star of the show, but hidden 45 kilometres west of Port Lincoln is Coffin Bay. It may only be home to 600 people and a scattering of shops, but oysters have put this little town on the map.
So many things make Coffin Bay oysters so good, but I guess the number one thing, undeniably, would be the water quality here. The water is just absolutely crystal clear. The water would be number one. If you've got good, clean water, you're going to go grow a good product.
Over 200 million oysters are grown in Coffin Bay each year.
Most of the time the oysters are in one of these nets?
They are in one of these bags here. This is called a BST bag, named after the 3 oyster farmers that invented it. We put about 5 dozen into one of these once they get up to this saleable size like we've got here now.
Experienced Coffin Bay tours allow visitors to see what the job of an oyster farmer entails.
We had this idea to do some shed tours to show people how we oyster farm, which was really cool, and we enjoyed doing that. And then we had people just slowly start to ask us, hey, could we come out to the farm and have a look around? We'd love to see that as well.
And when they say you get the full experience, they're not kidding. All guests jump straight into the water to get up and close with the oysters. But then it's time for the best part, tasting the local produce. And it doesn't get any fresher than this.
So what you want to do is get the knife in the corner, dig it into the shell till it pops open, peel the top back,
lose some of the juice,
and then you cut the mussel off, and then to present it, flip him over, and there we go.
And she's ready to go. Well, I think we should try one. Is that one ready to go for you?
Yeah.
Amazing. Right, let's knock one back. There you go. Perfect. Doesn't get any better, does it?
No.
Thank you, Monique van der Hey, apologies for not doing a proper introduction, is our reporter who will be here in Port Lincoln. Thank you very much. And joining us right now, Rowan Ramsey is the federal member for Grey, and Diana Mosloff, who is the local mayor here. Ladies and gentlemen, hello. All right, now, before we get to anything else, I was told there was tuna tossing in this part of Australia. What's going on? Why has it been cancelled? Who do I need to yell at? What's going on?
Don't have to yell at anyone.
Good. What's going on with tuna tossing?
What's going on? Tuna tossing, fantastic, unique event here in Port Lincoln with Tunarama, but fatigue has set in. So we've had the Tunarama Festival for 60 years and fatigue has set in, and the City Council has procured the intellectual property.
So you got this?
We've got this.
So whenever you want to, you can bring it back?
We can.
Do you want tuna tossing? Yeah. Bring it back, please. Next year I'll be here. I know it costs a bit of money, but
not
still.
2024, maybe 2025.
Maybe 2025. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I was still around. I'll still have access to a camera. Anyway,
come back.
Good to hear. All right, I love seeing that footage. It was just an excuse for us to play it. All right, now, Rowan, when we were flying in, the agricultural landscape is amazing. Like huge plots of land, but you could see how dry it was. So as frustrating the weather has been for us not being able to go and muck around with sharks and all that, it's been good for the agriculture here. Tell people about what they may not associate with Port Lincoln, this sort of area, when it comes to agriculture.
Well, Eyre Peninsula is a huge part of South Australia, the agricultural region, and pretty much a lot of the produce at least finds its way to Port Lincoln. There's a bit of competition up the road at Koala at the moment, at Teaport, and that's a good thing. Pretty much the harvest is off on EP, and so big rains like this now, and I just mentioned I had 75 mil on my farm before I tracked the 240 k's down to Port Lincoln today. Before I left it was still raining. It's money in the bank. It'll be water in the profile for next year. So it'll cause some issues around grape crops and things like that. But the predominant on EP is that wheat, barley, peas type crop, yeah.
Diana, how do you fight for this area whenever you get down to Adelaide, you talk to the Premier, you're trying to compete with other council areas? I mean, just again, you've been here for a couple of days, you understand why it's awesome, you understand why when it was intrastate tourism it was particularly good, but we want the word to get out. Obviously, I know some people, like my dear friend Corey Bernardi says, don't tell anyone about Coffin Bay. You've got to see Coffin Bay, all right? But tell me about Port Lincoln. How do you fight for it? How do you do it different than other mayors?
Well, I think I'll just try and get to the table. Tuesday I'll be meeting with the Minister for Tourism, so it's just about presenting over and over again. Some of that I do as the Mayor, and some of it I do on my own personal back to just try and keep Port Lincoln present all the time. And, you know, I'm persistent. I do write letters, I do, you know, advocate, try and bring a point of difference where I can to engage. So it's important to just front up.
So what are the major projects at the moment that you'd either like the area to get or you're in the middle of getting in at the moment? Because as I say, it's a beautiful area, but every area needs that little bit extra. So what's your plan?
Okay, so water security is a big issue. I won't go there though. We'll go with rail because we really need to revive the rail on the Eyre Peninsula, particularly for our grain industry, of course, and our exports. So rail's a big topic. We did have the Prime Minister here in Port Lincoln and advocated again, took him to Viterra, showed him our grain industry.
Don't tell him you've been on this show. If you want anything, don't tell him you've been on this show.
No, you know what? That's another thing. I advocate whatever side of politics we're talking about.
That's what we
like. So we're about outcomes here and the best I can do for Port Lincoln.
Good stuff. Rowan, last one here. What does this area need? What do you need to fight for?
Well, I can tell you what this area has got, Port Lincoln. It is the most dynamic centre in my electorate. There are over 1,500 small businesses in Port Lincoln. There's around about 15,000 people, so you can do the maths on that, Paul. And it's got a real entrepreneurial spirit where people are prepared to have a go. I'm never surprised at things that come out of Port Lincoln. And communities that actually have a bit of drive and gumption of their own, they're so much easier to work with. Now, that's not degrading any of my others. There are unique opportunities here. The tuna industry would have never been developed without that entrepreneurial spirit and having a go and refining the system to the best of the world. Now, we do that across a range of things. So Port Lincoln has the opportunity to keep building on that. Every now and then they need a little bit of grease in the wheel, but by and large, they're pretty self-motivated.
Good stuff. Give it up for your local representatives. They're there fighting for all the time. Thank you very much. I come in hot, but I appreciate it. Thank you too. Stick there because I've got to show you something, which is something that I did yesterday. Now, You know, in any regional community, there are the people who have been here for generations, the people that have been here a little bit shorter, and the people who have moved here in their own lives. And I met a bloke yesterday who I'm instantly in love with. His name is Ben, and he runs an incredible four-wheel drive company here. It's been declared to be one of the best, if not the best, in the entire state. And after we did the lovely, subtle stuff, which you must come and do as part of the tours, we got to muck around in the sand dunes. Here he is, Ben. As you've seen tonight, there's a million things to do here. But what make these places particularly special are locals, like my new best mate here in Lincoln, Ben. Born in Beijing, he's now built what TripAdvisor calls the best four-wheel drive tour in South Australia. And you can see why. It's not just the beautiful places that he brings you, but his passion for every little detail along the way. So this part of the world is called Whalers Way. The three limestone caves behind us, millions of years old. The biggest one, 40 by 80 metres. But what is particularly extraordinary is when you watch the waves break here, because the water is instantly so deep that the blue, other people would travel hours to see. You think you've got a long driveway? Imagine putting this bin out every Tuesday. Now we're over in the National Park, and there's only one way to get around in a national park, and that's go four-wheel driving over sand dunes. All right, Benny boy.
Everyone seatbelt on? Okay, cool. Let's go.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Oh.
This is what I call the wobbly area. We're gonna wobbly around here. Get ready?
Okay.
All right. See? Oh, wobbly. All right.
Oh, wow.
Perfect. That's it.
Go. So have you seen people stuck along here?
All the time.
Yeah,
you
right.
need experience, knowledge. Yeah.
That's your way of saying, no, Paul, you can't do it today. When you get down here, make sure that you book Ben for a sunset drive among the dunes. They'll even throw in some local wines and cook dinner for you right there on the beach. We love you, Benny. All the best, mate. A perfect example of what makes regional Australia great. His business, of course, is South Tour. Make sure you Google it. We'll put all the information up on our socials a little bit later. After the break, a bloke who has caught one of the biggest tunas of all time. He'll be here, muscles and all, with a story to tell. And being a fisherman, it's getting longer and longer and longer by the day. More in a sec. Hotel. Having a good time. We're all right here. People should come and visit us in Port Lincoln. Of course, Merry Christmas time. Now, in a second or two, I'm going to tell you about the incredible experience that, alas, we didn't have, but it's the only place you can do in the world now, which is where you can still dive with sharks. We'll explain all of that a little bit later. But again, to everyone here at the Marina Hotel, thank you so much for making us feel so welcome. One of the most wonderful things about our association with the wonderful people of Harvey Norman is their connection and support of regional Australia. It's obviously why we get to do what we do all the time. We can't do it without that support. But also the people who they give us the opportunity to showcase, including the women of regional Australia who have been nominated, and many, of course, go on to win this incredible thing called the Shine Awards. Courage, belief, grace and grit. Our rural and regional women have got it in spades. These ladies are the linchpins of their community in what can be very trying and a very difficult existence. They are the winners of the amazing Shine Awards. These 19 stellar rural women have been chosen from an incredible field of more than 120 special Australian women.
Katie Page and I started this 7 years ago over a cup of tea, thinking how could we actually recognise what these incredible women are doing in rural and regional Australia, and we came up with the idea of working with the Weekly Times, which is our rural masthead, and Harvey Norman, and just shining a light on all these inspiring stories.
There were so many amazing women in regional Australia doing things that no one knows about. The women that we've had today around this table sharing their experiences, I mean, there's not one year I don't leave without tears in my eyes.
And this year's winners are yet again perfect examples of why the Shine Awards mean so much.
I was told many, many times that on paper my business should have never survived.
Sharon Windsor, a woman from Western New South Wales. Her Indigi Earth brand is the first Aboriginal-owned native food brand which is being stocked right now in Woolworths.
Everything from my childhood, from those years out near Pilliga, Rocky Glen, growing up, has absolutely everything. It's been the core of the success.
Now, all of this was a way of trying to find a way through some pretty dark days. She lost her firstborn son. She's a survivor of domestic violence. And for her, Indigenous food and culture was the thing that helped save her life.
Desperate to break cycles within my own life and structures for my kids, and yeah, just doing what I'm passionate about and what's been a big healing provider for me.
Lisa Locke is another incredible story. Originally from a family farm here in South Australia, Lisa was inspired by a group of 5 dynamic women in her hometown of Kimber to create a thing called Workshop 26. It's a not-for-profit collective.
There were tough times here in Kimber. We were in the midst of a nasty drought, and this machinery dealership that you see me sitting in closed its doors, along with 2 other Main Street businesses within just a couple of weeks of each other, and that really hit the town hard. So 5 local women, 4 farmers and the local publican got together and had a little bit of a crazy idea to buy the old machinery dealership. So they put their hands in their own pockets to buy the space. And when I saw what they'd done, I wanted so much to be a part of it. So I volunteered to start working with them and sharing their story. And that led me to the stories of so many other amazing rural women. When rural women see other rural women doing amazing, exciting, interesting things, it helps them believe, do you know what, I can do that too.
So let us take yet another opportunity to celebrate the great Australian regional women. And it is an honour and a privilege through the Weekly Times and Harvey Norman to celebrate what they do and, more importantly, who they are with the Shine Awards.
Anyone can do it. Believe in yourself, back yourself, be comfortable in being uncomfortable, and go for it.
They're giving powerful messages to Australia and to women that they can do the same thing.
Thank you, Katie. We love you. Thank you so much for the support of everyone in the team, and Merry Christmas to everyone at Harvey Norman. The rain is sadly still falling as we speak here in Port Lincoln, as you can see. Imagine those that are going to have to be out on the trawlers tomorrow morning as it continues to be winter here. But in the meantime, plenty to celebrate about the region, including, again, the tourism that's around here. And Monica's been able to see a whole bunch of stuff, including one of the biggest collections of koalas in the country. I'm telling you, this joint's got everything. You've got to come here for a holiday.
Sandy beaches, sea lions and the occasional great white. There is plenty to take in along the Eyre Peninsula's 2,000 kilometres of coastline. And the best way to see it all is on 2 wheels.
You see parts of Lincoln that you wouldn't see. You're being active, and at the end of the day you always feel like you've deserved some more seafood maybe, you know.
Australian coastal safaris guide you through the winding trails of Port Lincoln's national parks. Pedalling through the bustling town centre to the towering cliffs, stopping a few times along the way to take it all in.
Oh, how beautiful is this? It's gorgeous, isn't it? Anything that's out in nature, we're on it.
joining you along the way some of Australia's cutest faces. But to get up and close with our furry friends, you just need to take a look in Port Lincoln's backyard. 26 kilometres south of the town centre, you'll find Yarra Station, home to the Eyre Peninsula's largest koala colony. And if you come during spring like we did, you'll even spot a few joeys.
You got a mum and little baby up there. Is it currently baby season for the koalas at the moment?
It is. They're just learning to climb away from their mums, and almost every female that I've seen has got a joey. So, yeah, maybe 50 joeys.
Helen Della Pirelli and her family have looked after the former sheep station for 3 generations. The warping trees are now full with over 50 wild koalas, a thought that seemed impossible just 10 years ago, when a fire wiped out most of the population.
It burnt pretty well 50%, like half of this particular property, and maybe about 50 koalas did perish in that fire, which was very sad, but they have bred back up again and the trees have grown back up.
However you choose to take in this region by bike, boat or foot, there's one part that must be explored. It's wine. South Australian wine from the Barossa and McLaren Vale is known across the globe, but Port Lincoln also produces a tasty drop.
Cheers.
The cool ocean breeze and the limestone beneath the soil help produce a wine that is one of a kind.
That's why so many our guests commented and say, well, I'm not a Riesling drinker, I'm not a wine drinker, but as soon as we give them a try a Riesling, they're just like, oh my God, this is the one I would like to just have them take with me. It's actually one of the wineries which is the closest to the ocean, and having such a beautiful view where you can see the vineyard and the ocean, it's just something incredibly rare.
Now owned by SA family business Baristas Block, Boston Bay is expanding across its 16 hectares of land, planting new varieties like French grapes, the ideal pairing for the local seafood.
The perfect option after a long day in the great outdoors. You can sit back, relax and enjoy some of SA's finest.
The cellar door menu has plenty of snacks. The local meat and cheese go down a treat with a glass in hand, ensuring you leave full and satisfied.
Monique van der Hayden there with all of the details. Now, of course, Monique, I hope that you've put in a receipt for the cases and cases of wine. And, of course, Hinning and the financial people watching, don't worry, it's all okay. It was for work. Good luck, enjoy that, and thank you for doing the great work for us, Monique. In this town and this our town, and all of our reporters have been fantastic all year. Look forward to doing it again next year. We'll be back with our monthly trip around the map. Now, of course, everything to do with fishing in the water, very big deal here. The only place in the world that you can actually hang out with sharks is here, and the bloke who was actually able to reel in with his own 2 hands and a very strong line, I'm assuming, 133 kilo tuna to our next 2 guests. Please welcome Andrew Wright from Calypso Star Charters. They, of course, run the Shark Tank experience, and Shane Hodges, who's the man who set that record, who actually pulled in a tuna that's fatter than me. So, Shane, when you get the first twig on the line, you think, all right, this will be all right. When did you start to realise what you were battling with and the full size of this bugger you were trying to pull into the back of the boat?
We saw it hit the lure, and when we saw it hit it, it was just a massive big black shape, and we knew it was pretty big.
And are you sitting there just going, all right, off with the shirt, I'm just wearing the footy shorts, I'm just going to be doing these ones for the next 2 hours? How long does it take to reel in something that big?
Well, that fish took about an hour and a half, so that was... It took a long time, but we've had other fish recently that we hooked one and lost at boat side. That was after 2.5 hours. So there's some very big fish out there.
So what happens when you get something like that? You know, if you eat a steak that big, they give you a knife and they put your name on the restaurant. What happens when you catch something that big?
We need 100 people. So pretty much need 100 people because there's a lot of meat on a fish like that.
Yep. Everyone was your mate that weekend?
Yeah, we had lots of people I'd never met before, and all grabbed a piece of tuna. But it's a lot it's a lot of fish out of that.
That is pretty impressive. Imagine you coming home to your Mrs. Dahl, can you? Anyway, now, Andrew, your tours, they are literally once in a lifetime, only place in the world. We wanted to do it, but alas, rain meant that the further out we get, the worse it becomes. But the experience looks like one. We were salivating for months, and I even heard you had the 5XL wetsuit ready.
We did.
Right.
And
you had to sew two together to get one big enough for me?
In fairness, I think you would have only been in the 4XL.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you hear that, Dale? In Port Lincoln, I'm only a 4XL. How good's that?
And black would definitely be your colour.
Very suiting and slimming. Now, we've seen incredible footage. One of our great cinematographers, cameramen, of course, in Josh Brown, who's taking this shot tonight. One of the men who's taking the shot tonight. He went out and did the tour before, and he was just saying the images are incredible. But you don't have to be a world-class photographer. If you turn out there with your GoPro, you're going to end up with incredible footage because literally, how close do you get to the shark?
Oh, look, arm's length away.
Like bang into the cage or as close in?
We try not to bang them into the cage.
Right.
But,
if the officials are listening, a shark has never banged a cage, all right? But for everyone else, they get very close.
Close enough to touch, but please don't touch.
What sort of idiot puts their hand outside the cage?
They do walk amongst us, so we try to expect people to do.
Apart from what the shark would do, how do you convince people not to do that?
Look, I think the sharks convince people not to do that.
After a while,
you come on with all the bravado in the world, and then they see the shark and they're quickly put back in their place.
What's it like seeing people multiple times a day go through this experience that they will never forget?
Look, it's a very humbling thing to be able to do, to think that more than 10,000 people a year travel from all corners of the globe to Port Lincoln just to undertake this experience. It's pretty special. It's pretty special for Port Lincoln and pretty special for our team to be able to fulfil that for people.
Shane, Andrew, thank you very much. Lovely to have us here. I look forward to jumping in that cage at some point too. 4XL. Here I'm slim, slender and sexy. 4XL. Thank you, guys. Give them a round of applause. Excellent. And all the tourism operators who do a wonderful job. Quick break. Back with more here on Paul Murray Live. Two things happen when you come to a Paul Murray Live, our town. One, you get this world-class stubby holder. Now, you've all got one, you're all happy. If I sign it, it'll be worth even less. But the joy is that this is the perfect gift for Christmas. If you have any lefty voters that you'd like to annoy, feel free. I don't know if Sky News has got a shop, but if it does, this would be huge. The other thing is you get to win Paul's meat. And tonight, the meat is sourced nice and local from the good people of the Port Lincoln Meat Service. Have a look. Sure, the joint loves seafood, but it doesn't mind some meat as well. All right, in we go. The official drawing here. This is overseen by the authorities of Caroline and Jody. And here we go. It is a blue ticket. You be excited? A blue ticket. B, 83. Who won? Well, darling, come on down. You've just won me meat. All contestants in win Paul's meats. Our supporters of Paul Murray Live. Now, as always, it's good to know about the future of an area like this, and we had a chat to the kids from the local Port Lincoln school about what they love most about this part of the world.
Hello, what's your name?
Charlie.
And Charlie, what do you love about Port Lincoln?
That it's really easy to make friends. I made a friend called Billy Francis and I met him like a month ago.
What's your name?
Riley.
And Riley, what do you love about Port Lincoln?
Try off the coast. Good spot for fishing and camping. Never get bored.
Go, 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 go! Go, go, go! What's your name?
Ella.
Ella, what do you love about Port Lincoln?
I love how lots of the people are really friendly and they really help you around.
What do you want to be when you get older?
Well, I've really got my heart set on is a doctor.
You want to work in the city or you're going to stay here in Port Lincoln?
Stay here in the Port Lincoln so I can be with my family and friends.
What's your name?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie, what are you reading?
I'm reading a series of Unfortunate Events.
Is it your favourite book?
Yeah, it's my favourite series.
What's your favourite thing about Port Lincoln?
I love the sand dunes and the beaches.
Hey guys, do you like seafood?
Yes.
What's your favourite type of seafood?
Fish and chips.
Great choice. Do you guys like seafood?
Yes. And oysters.
And oysters, great choice. Good ones down in Coffin Bay. What about you two?
Kilpatrick oysters.
Oh, a bit fancy over here at this table. Lucky last group over here. What about you guys? Do you like seafood?
Yes.
And what's your favourite type of seafood?
I don't know.
Do you like seafood though?
Not really, no.
Okay.
One of the things that we are promising to do with our town as we go all the way around the country, and of course that is only possible because of the good people of Harvey Norman, is to ask you to leave a bit of a legacy. And unbelievably, bizarrely, but it is the way it is, there's a lot of hospital equipment, particularly for little babies that are crook in their first few days, that needs to be donated. And we're focusing on regional hospitals where we raise money for a week, we see what we can get, and you'll be surprised what you can get. And I'm pleased to say the good people who watch this show have now donated to Port Lincoln Hospital $42,000 worth of equipment, which is really, really awesome. And I thank you very much. And Andrew Lane is the Executive Director of Nursing and Midwifery in this part of the world. And I'm pleased to say he's going to know where all of it's going to go. Great man, lovely to see you.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Pleasure, an unbelievable pleasure. $42,000, what's the type of stuff that Humpty Dumpty and you can work together on?
So we're just incredibly thankful for you and for the Humpty Dumpty Foundation. This is an amazing donation, incredible. So we babies, about 6 out of every 10 babies get what we call jaundice. And so that can sometimes mean that they stay in hospitals longer. Some babies don't need any treatment, but some do. So this will get us 2 phototherapy blankets that babies will be able to use, mums will be able to use, and we're hoping that it'll also mean they'll be able to use them at home. There's also breast pumps that we're going to buy. So we do about 300 births a year here in Port Lincoln. We do about 100 up the road in Sojourner. We're incredibly proud of our services. So amazing donation. So thankful.
Well, it's our pleasure. I mean, this sort of equipment, and again, Humpty Dumpty, and anyone who knows my long-term story knows why I'm particularly focused on it and why this stuff's needed. But again, if you're watching at home, I just want to say thank you. I mean, every time we ask, you guys step up. Every time you give way more than maybe sometimes some people can afford, and I just want to say I very much appreciate it. Andrew, tell us about the summertime here. I mean, obviously when you've got so many people coming in and about 200,000 people come here via tourism all the time. So you've got to take care of 2 populations. You've got to take care of the locals and the visitors. You're in for a big summer normally?
Yeah, I'm responsible for the clinical services on the whole EP. So as well as Port Lincoln, we have a huge influx of tourists across the whole peninsula. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge for our emergency departments, but we've got an amazing group of staff that step up all the time, amazing medicos. We're well equipped. We've got great services. So for us, it's a challenge we take in our stride.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate it. Give him a round of applause. Thank you to everyone here at Port Lincoln. Thank you to everyone who donated. I very much appreciate it. All of those people have been very good. But the final word on our town for this year goes to a very special man, Benny the Bushman from Beijing. He's here. He's finally here. Give him a rev up. To us out. Merry Christmas, Ben. We'll see you back at the Man Cave tomorrow.